prepare myself
Get it.
mentally.
Here we go. Derbyites, we are here for a Forums poster slugfest. There is no better place to discuss entertainment awards than the Gold Derby message boards. You can spend hours there talking about all the key races. And I'm joined here by three of our crucial Forums posters. Jacob, who you might know in the Forums as Pterodax. Amanda, who you might know in the Forums as Surprise Lover. And Tony, who you might know in the Forums as Opera Junkie. And we're going to deep dive right into the big awards races this year, the film, television, all that sort of stuff. And we might as well start with Star Wars, because this could be on the precipice of breaking into the Best Picture race, the original got in back in the 70s. Jacob, what do you think? Can Star Wars do it and get in?
No! Guardians couldn't get in. Skyfall couldn't get in. All these movies that have gotten in a PGA, and of course, because they're popular, they do a ranked system, that have gotten in and have been more universally beloved. And Skyfall had Roger Deakins cinematography, it was better made, and Guardians had heart and creativity, and it was like the real Star Wars we should have gotten with this Star Wars. And this Star Wars is the exact same movie as A New Hope, plot point by plot point. Maz Kanata is Discount Orange Yoda, and you've got Han Solo getting gutted like Floyd Gerhardt in Fargo. Han Solo is Floyd, only in Fargo it worked because it was a brutal story, and it's the same movie as A New Hope, only worse. They are not going to nominate these pre-packaged, rehashed crap for Best Picture. They have too high standards not to be influenced by the public and what's popular. Transformers Dark of the Moon would have been... Okay, I can't even go there, but, like, if Avatar... I mean, Avatar got in because of James Cameron. J.J. Abrams doesn't have the industry clout James Cameron had, and no.
Okay. Well, I think you are so wrong. But Amanda, what do you think? You just saw the film today or last night or something like that?
Yesterday, yeah.
Yesterday.
I enjoyed it. I was afraid I was going to have to see, I guess, the sixth one again, because it's been a very long time since I've seen any of them. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was really well made, and I can see it getting into the technical categories and some below-the-line supports. Probably could get it into Best Picture. I don't have it in, like, I think I have it in 10th right now, 9th or 10th. But, yeah, I think the problem is that we've seen better continuations of stories this year with Mad Max and Creed. We've seen better, we've just seen better with this. And, yeah, definitely we've seen better movies. But it was enjoyable, and you don't have to have seen the first six to enjoy this, which I appreciate because I don't remember the last three as well as I remember the first three.
Though, like, are any of those other continuations actually better reviewed? Like, is Creed or
Mad Max is better reviewed.
No.
Looks and run. Yeah, Mad Max is better reviewed.
Mad Max.
They're about equal.
Nah, Force Awakens is like 95.
Okay.
Last time I checked, 94. Mad Max is at 97. Star Wars is at 95. Star Wars is at 95, 94. Mad Max is 97. So
yeah, on Metacritic you got Mad Max on 89. You've got Star Wars.
Star Wars is 81.
81.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mad Max is high with the critics there.
Rotten Tomatoes.
So that is fair. Tony, weigh in.
My point.
Yeah, Tony, weigh in.
I think it has a really good shot. I mean, and I'm not debating the merits of it as a film here, but I mean, I certainly just loved and adored it, and I completely disagree with you about J.J. Abrams,
I like Superman,
who made one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Lost.
Okay,
But no one has captured the zeitgeist the way that Star Wars has. I mean, for a movie to make, you know, what was it? It crossed the $500 million mark in less than 2 weeks. It made $50 million on Christmas Day alone. I think that Tom had said this somewhere, that it could go into Oscar night with a large number of nominations. Maybe not, you know, the top number of nominations, because, you know, unless they throw Harrison Ford a bone, which I doubt they will.
No.
But
No.
Too crowded.
but
We agree on something.
Yes,
all the tech all the tech categories could push it up into Best Picture. I've got it in my top 10 right now. I think it's a real possibility because nobody expected it to be as well reviewed as it has been, and it has been extremely well reviewed. The Critics' Choice even went back after they released their 10 bests, and
they should not have done it.
Well, whether they should or shouldn't have is inconsequential.
It's
they did. They did do it.
They should have.
So, I think it would be foolish to discount it.
Yeah, look. Yeah, go, Jacob.
It's going to be nominated in these three: visual effects, sound mixing, sound editing. As much as I despise the movie, if Star Trek Into Darkness can get in visual effects, which I saw Into Darkness twice in theaters. I like J.J. Abrams generally. I came in just expecting a decent, fun movie with Force Awakens, so they cannot say my expectations were too high. I read Dark Empire, Star Wars Legacy, I'm a fan. With that being said, and by the way, I don't count anything Disney does as canon anymore of Star Wars. Dark Horse, Hand of Thrawn, all that stuff is canon. Once again, this rehashed garbage is not. Yeah. So what I'm saying, my point is that it's going to get in visual effects, sound mixing, sound editing, but it's not going to get in score. And here's why. Can I tell you why real quick? It's the music. I read an article on HollywoodReporter.com that was saying how there was a chance John Williams could get snubbed due to there not being a lot of whole original music and his over-relying on the older Star Wars themes for nostalgia's sake. The visual effects branch, they're very not visual, their sound, the music branch is very picky. You saw last year Birdman was ineligible, and I thought it had easily one of the top 5 music scores of the entire year, but they're very picky and so the over-reliance on old music. The Duel of the Fates theme from Phantom Menace is iconic. Phantom Menace is not a good movie by any means, or even an okay one, but the Duel of the Fates theme with Darth Maul fighting, that's classic film music, and even that couldn't get nominated. They love John Williams. They just love his music for the original Star Wars and not Star Wars in general, I don't think.
It's possible.
Look, yeah, it's possible. I think you are so wrong, Jacob. Maybe not about the score thing, who knows. I can see that getting snubbed because the music thing. But for the movie, this would be a disaster for the Academy if they didn't nominate Star Wars. The box office is huge. The reviews are good. This is pretty much on Metacritic about a Dark Knight score. I think they'll one off what the Dark Knight got.
And
the Dark Knight was a masterpiece.
Hold on. We remember with the Dark Knight, this was the reason they went to 10 and then went to this 1% thing. If they don't put Star Wars in, the reason for having 10 has failed.
Yes.
It already failed.
Completely agree.
To go back.
The Deathly Hallows Part 2 didn't get nominated. Sorry.
I'm saying, when they went to 10 because The Dark Knight, a movie that made $1 billion plus at the box office, did not get in.
And was very well reviewed. A very well reviewed movie that made that much money at the box office. If this would be a failure of that system, because the reason they expanded to 10 was for when this Star Wars came along, or the next film that was this huge, that it would not get ignored. And this Star Wars is at a mania that no film since The Dark Knight has had. There's other films that have been big, but this is the amount of merchandising and across-the-board pop culture, referencing and stuff. And it's happened, Jacob, right at Oscar time. It is at its peak as ballots go out today.
But Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 had just as much.
That was a children's movie. We're talking about a movie that's
I'm just trying to say that movie made over $1 billion. That one was expected, like Star Wars, to get a Best Picture nomination. I remember that hype. People were talking about it seriously. And of course it didn't. It got into a few tech categories. But yeah, Star Wars isn't doing much better than Final Harry Potter movie did. And in fact, the Final Harry Potter movie
is doing better because it's made this benchmark quicker than any other movie. It's crossed over quicker.
I just am afraid a lot of
it's over $1 billion.
So
if it's not nominated for Best Picture, it is a failure of the 5 to 10 system.
Yeah,
the 5 to 10 system's already failed multiple times, in my opinion. If they're going to be nominating
extremely loud,
can I finish the sentence? If they're going to nominate extremely loud and incredibly close over Drive, that is a failure of any system, in my opinion.
I think you got to be worried, Jacob, if Star Wars doesn't get nominated, what changes they might bring in next year.
Hopefully it's just back to 5 nominees. I want that because it means more prestige. Less is more.
I think they might make it 15.
Oh no. They can't do that. That'd be horrible.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's what they're doing.
That would be hard to predict.
Yeah. Oh boy, let's switch off Star Wars. I'm sure that'll give plenty of strong opinions on the YouTube comments on this video.
Yes. Movies get nominated, not products.
Yeah. So
They're gonna hate
Before Failed Awakening is a product. It's not a movie. A movie is a byproduct of the merchandise. It's so messed up. Han gets Boba Fetted.
Let's talk about the Best Director race. This is an interesting one. Because for a long time, I think now on Gold Derby's odds, McCarthy for Spotlight is just ahead, but Ridley Scott's been in front for a long time. This is a very interesting race. Tony, can you size it up for us?
Yeah, it seems like in the beginning of the Derby season, Ridley Scott. There was a lot of talk about Ridley Scott. I know on Editor Slugfest you guys have talked about it. But, I mean, he's the veteran. Martian really was a huge blockbuster success. And a lot of people felt like, hey, this is Ridley Scott. This is the guy that made Blade Runner and Alien and Thelma and Louise and has made so many good movies. Hasn't made that many good ones lately. But it seemed like that there was certainly some momentum in that direction. But right now, I think the Best Director is a real head scratcher. I mean, I think we know who's going to get nominated. We know that George Miller will probably be nominated for Mad Max. We know that Ridley Scott will probably get nominated, although The Martian has been kind of all over the place, I think, in terms of nominations here, snubs there. Tom McCarthy will probably get a nomination for Spotlight because that one's the perceived front runner for Best Picture. As for who gets that last slot, is it going to be Spielberg? Is it going to be Inarritu for the Revenant? Is it going to be J.J. Abrams? Sorry, Jacob. Who knows? I think that race is so all over the place that there's really no front runner right now. I don't think.
I would also like to mention F. Gary Gray real quick for Straight Outta Compton. That's also one you should remember.
That would be, and I think Straight Outta Compton really has a chance of getting a Best Picture nod. But the talk for the long time was Ridley Scott, and now is it going to be George Miller? Is it going to be like it? Because we've had so many split years in recent years where director's been one and picture's been another. I don't think anybody who's seen Spotlight would argue that it's a masterpiece in directorial achievement, but if it were me, I'd give it to George Miller because Mad Max was my favorite movie of the year, by a long shot, not even close.
I also loved Kingsman, but
you're dreaming.
Kingsman's not going to win Best Picture. I know that. I'm not crazy. But
Amanda, what is the biggest question looming over you for the Best Director race?
There's no question for me. I think Ridley Scott's his time has come. Basically, is how I feel about it. I think that this is just going to be one of those years, regardless of how competitive it is, and what the 5 is at DGA or at the Oscars. He's got the Oscar. He's probably going to win, and he's somebody, when you look at his career, should have an Oscar by now. Now, I will say this. Check your Golden Globe predictions now, because if you have Inarritu in 4th or 5th, he's the one to look out for at the Globes if you ask me, because he got skunked 3 times last year, and then spent the rest of the month of February accepting awards. So if anyone's going to upset Ridley Scott's party, it's going to be Inarritu at the Globes, and then it's going to be smooth sailing going forward.
Well, they already gave Inarritu one for co-writing the Birdman script last year.
He did not win a Globe. He did not win a Golden Globe.
Yes, you did. He did look it up. Look it up. The Birdman, one of the best.
Boyhood won writing. Boyhood won writing.
I'm talking about, yeah, but writing. He did not win the directing Globe. That is true. But I
He
feel
didn't
like
win any Globes last year. It was the first picture since Annie Hall to win Best Picture without winning without winning Best Comedy or Musical. And Boyhood won.
No, I'm looking at the
last year.
At the Globe results from last year. Yeah.
Best screenplay went to Birdman.
Screenplay was Birdman.
Told you.
That's right. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, exactly. You see.
Screenwriting.
Yeah.
Boyhood. I got bored last year with Boyhood. I found Richard Linklater a little boring. So.
Boyhood was kind of boring, yeah, but I think that has more to do with its length and not the content.
Still, I would look out for Inarritu. He won every award all year last year, and the only place he didn't win Best Director was at the Globes. I still think there's a chance we might see him kind of get a makeup award because he didn't just not win Director, he didn't win Picture either.
He also didn't win at the BAFTAs. Remember those? BAFTAs loved Boyhood.
Well, we're not talking about BAFTAs right now. We're talking about...
I'm just saying, as for comparison's sake, he lost quite a lot of other awards, too, I'm saying. That's the point I'm making, is he could maybe just come ahead at the Oscars and win the DGA, the PGA, and SAG is not obviously winning Ensemble. And here's another statistic. You're talking about The Revenant winning a bunch of awards. Guess what? No movie since $1 Million Baby that's come out in December has won Best Picture. And
I'm not talking about Best Picture. I'm talking about, I think Ridley Scott has this set. I'm saying the one place I could see a hiccup would possibly be the Golden Globes. And looking at the list of nominees, I think the only one really who might upset him would be Inarritu.
Well, okay, Amanda, just on this for a second, you think Ridley Scott's go down, where would you put The Martian in the Best Picture stakes? Where would you rank that?
I'd say probably in third or fourth.
Yeah, third or fourth. Is that that's so bizarre to say that a director's got it in lock, but you don't really think the film's up there in the first 1 or 2 slots?
Yeah, but I think the reason the film's not up there in the 1 or 2 slots is just, I don't know. I don't really feel comfortable with the films that are above it either. I'm not 100% comfortable with Spotlight. I could be sold another film's going to win Best Picture, but it just, I liked Spotlight. It was a good film.
Good.
I could see why it would win Best Picture, but it's kind of one of those things where I'd be like, okay, that happened. It wouldn't be very satisfying.
And I feel like that. You can go.
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
I was going to say that to me, yeah, I think Ridley Scott is very high up there. What concerns me is that it seems like The Martian, right now we're having there's conversations about whether Damon's going to get nominated for Best Actor. And he is that entire movie for all intents and purposes. And I'm wondering if that was the initial momentum for Ridley Scott. I still think he's in first place. I think I have him in first place. But I'm worried that the momentum is going to go, and I think Amanda's point about Inarritu is spot on. The Revenant, there were not one but 2 huge articles about it in the New York Times, and one specifically that was just all about the making of the movie and how hard it was. We've all heard the narrative about how grueling this film was to make, and I think that narrative. I don't think Inarritu will win Best Director. I think he has a good shot of being nominated, but if Ridley Scott doesn't win Director at the Globes, I think there's going to be it's really going to be a hiccup on the way to the Oscars, because the only thing really after that is you have, Critics' Choice, yeah, but DGA, but there's a long lull period between the Globes and DGA, and so I'm wondering if Ridley Scott can keep up the momentum.
I just want to say that I think George Miller's a lock to win Best Director. I think you're all crazy for Ridley Scott. You know what I think Ridley Scott is? He's the Michael Keaton for Birdman of this year. He's a veteran. Everyone comes in and says, it's his time, it's his time. But then you see George Miller, he just has much more passion, I think, than Ridley Scott. People talk about Ridley Scott. Oh yeah, it's one of the year's best films. Mad Max Fury Road may be the year's best film, and it has more of a shot at winning Best Picture than The Martian sure as heck does. So, and Charlize Theron could get nominated. She's at 100-1 odds right now. I didn't love her in the movie when I first saw it, but I think that the hype might just be enough to pull her ahead, and she's won already for Monster. And am I the only one who thinks Mad Max could get in screenplay, or is that too wishful thinking?
I don't think it's too wishful thinking. I think the advantage that it has, that Mad Max has at the Oscars, that it doesn't have at the Globes, is that the Oscars has 2 screenplay categories. I do think George Miller is a real threat to Ridley Scott. But let's be honest here. The Oscars, they will play the sentiment card as much as any other organization. So
and George Miller has an Oscar.
And George Miller has an Oscar already.
Then where's Lawrence Paul's Oscar? There's sentiment there. Juliette Binoche, she wrote of an English Patient Train. George Miller, it'll ride him a wave of tech nominations like Gravity, and Alfonso Cuarón won. Oh,
of course, it's totally possible. But there comes to be, every few years or so there is this coronation time. Martin Scorsese winning for The Departed. That nobody thinks is Scorsese's masterpiece, is The Departed. Maybe Ridley Scott is the Martin Scorsese this year. The difference is The Martian is not. I would argue it's not even in the top 5 to win Best Picture.
Yes, thank you.
And I love The Martian. It's in my top 10. I loved it, but I don't think. Spotlight, Mad Max, Big Short, those are all having more momentum than The Martian does right now.
But don't you think, this is my thing, is that when I think of the Academy, and yes, they're trying to include younger voters, but there's a lot of older voters in the Academy, and The Martian, whether you like it or not, is a movie that's understandable, meaning you can follow what's going on.
Yes.
And I had to see Mad Max twice to get what was going on myself. So I think there might be some older members of the Academy who might be like, what in the world are these people doing out in the desert?
Well,
here's
the way I see that. Here's the way I see it. To me, the Oscars have always been where popular art and critical acclaim intersect. The critics will sometimes drive a film, a performance, into the Oscar race. But then commerce and popularity meet. That's when you get something like The Social Network winning every critics award and it getting all these Oscar nominations and then losing to The King's Speech. So, yes, Mad Max was a hit. It has all the critic support. But the question is, will that film... The one disadvantage for both George Miller and for Mad Max is that it might be, like Amanda said, people might go, well, geez, what is this about? Okay. Because we've seen it in the forums how people always say, well, Mad Max has no plot, which makes me want to pull my hair out, but whatever.
I'd like to say that it just occurred to me as maybe The Revenant is the Star Wars of this Oscar season. It's the late-breaking December movie. It peaks at just the right moment. It's got critical acclaim. Leonardo DiCaprio is I think he has more of a rooting factor than Ridley Scott, considering how physically prepared the role. Yeah, Ridley Scott's the director, but I just have a feeling that this might be Leo's turn. It's like you say his coronation. This might be his coronation. And there is some sentiment he should have won for Wolf of Wall Street instead of McConaughey. I haven't seen Wolf still, but, I've heard it.
You haven't seen Wolf of Wall Street?
I haven't seen Wolf of Wall Street yet. I'm meaning to. It's a priority for me. I hear it's a masterpiece, and I want to see it badly, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm too busy watching, Beasts of No Nation last night. Could Terry Joji Fukunaga get nominated? I mean, these are people that nominated Beasts of the Southern Wild for directing.
I think that's the question.
No, go ahead.
I think that's an important point to bring up, is that the Academy has a history, particularly in the directing category, of throwing in a curveball, of throwing in a Beast of the Southern Wild, of throwing in Krzysztof Kozlowski for Red in the 90s, of throwing in these really kind of
David Lynch, Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, David Lynch for Mulholland Drive. I mean, really throwing in these oddball out in left field choices. So there's always a chance that, and that might be where you get, Adam McKay for The Big Short, which would be, I haven't seen The Big Short yet, but the fact that the director of, Talladega Nights would be an Oscar nominee is terrifying to me. But it could happen.
Could make a movie this relevant, period, from a director.
But why not Lenny Abramson or Ryan Coogler? They seem a little bit more like they have some momentum. Their films, they've got actors and actresses who are predicted to be nominated. Remember when Beasts of the Southern Wild got in, Convention A. Wallace got in for acting, which was it was kind of on the bubble.
Could an Abraham Atta get in? Idris Elba, everyone's talking about like he would win at one point. At one point. I saw Beasts last night. I do not think Idris Elba is winning. It wasn't the Whiplash or Inglourious Bastards type winking devil role the Oscars alike that I was expecting, but Abraham Atta, if he gets nominated, I'm automatically predicting it to win something, whether it's cinematography or...
Well, I think the question is will enough people have seen Beasts of No Nation?
Yeah.
Because Beasts of No Nation is really the first, as far as I know of, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, the first really Netflix-driven film to be in the Derby. What their marketing push is going to be like. It does seem like most of the momentum's behind Idris Elba. And if they're going to nominate a child actor, it's probably going to be Jacob Tremblay from The Room, even though he belongs in lead. But there's so many, and I think Creed is a one to really watch. I mean, Stallone's going to get in. We know this. And I think he's the front runner to win, quite frankly. I don't care what happened at SAG. We know what happened at SAG. They didn't get the screeners until after the voting was already done. But I could see, Michael B. Jordan getting in. I could see a logical scenario in which Creed gets a Best Picture nominee. I don't think Coogler would get in for director though.
Let's go to Stallone in a second, but first, and I think you guys hit on a good point about these snubs, these these surprises in the directing category. Beasts of the Southern Wild getting in, more got it. They weren't really.
Mikhail Haneke.
There's a whole bunch of surprises in this category, and I think it speaks to the voting system that they use for director, which now is a different system to what they use for Best Picture. Whereby it's preferential, where you need those number 1, number 2 ballots in order. They count for more. They pile them up. I'll very briefly explain. They pile it up based on your first preferences of all the voters. They pile them up in piles. If you've got 1/6 plus 1 of the votes, you get nominated. If not, then they find the lowest pile and they redelegate it based on second preferences. So you want those first and second votes, pretty much. And there's a good article Paul's written about how voting works, so you can check that out at Gold Derby. But so that's how it works, and that's why you get these, and that's why I always with this category look for what is the film that the Academy members are going to be passionate about. What is something that I get to see them throwing their weight behind? And that's why I'm predicting Room to get in for Best Director, just because I feel like that could be it. But it could equally be a Big Short. It could equally be one of those other ones. Jacob?
I wanted to say is the producer's branch might be sentimental about Creed, even if they don't like the movie as much, because Robert Chartoff died, who was a co-producer of it and already won an Oscar for first Rocky movie. So they might just vote Creed as their number 1, the producer's branch, based on sentiment for their lost friend, Robert Chartoff.
Yeah. And I do think also, Amanda, could Ridley Scott, The Martian is fading a little bit.
Yeah.
Could he be the Ben Affleck? Could he be the guy that there isn't the passion, there isn't those number 1 votes? Everyone's putting Ridley Scott second or third on their ballots.
Exactly. That's what I can say.
But I could see that. But I don't see a lot of passion for the other directors.
That could be fair.
I mean, I look at I love Spotlight, but I think it's more of an actor's achievement, and it's having trouble getting into acting categories. We can all agree we're having trouble. We don't know yet if a $0 box office is really going to affect Netflix and Idris Elba. So that's kind of my problem with Carrie, even though I can't pronounce his last name. So I think the problem with this year and this list of directors is there's something wrong with all of them. They all have a really big negative to me that's keeping me from. Yeah.
George Miller. You can go.
I'm predicting that in this category, a underdog sort of contender, whether it's Room, whether it's Beast, whether it's The Big Short, someone that isn't really much on the radar is going to knock out a heavy hitter. That we're going to see someone that we expect to get nominated is going to be unseated by someone who is just not even in the 6th or 7th place. But I don't know. Maybe that will happen. Maybe that won't happen. Tony, you said that you thought Stallone is the front runner to win supporting actor. Amanda, what do you think? Is he the front runner? You agree?
Jacob,
why, Amanda?
This movie, even if they sent out the screeners in September, people were probably going to go, no, I'm not gonna waste 2 hours of my time watching this. And then you just started hearing this word of mouth of, oh my God, this is so amazing. You have to see this. You have to see Sylvester Stallone. Where it's not really going to matter. This is going to be one of those cases like Christoph Waltz where he doesn't need that SAG nomination. There's just going to be, there's enough momentum going for him. And he's got a pretty decent story also with his backstory of not winning for Rocky. That, yeah, I think he's probably got this pretty well locked up, especially with the trouble we've seen with people who we expected to be nominated. We haven't seen a lot of Michael Keaton. We've seen no Michael Keaton. We've seen Mark Ruffalo at one place. And remember, the Globes nominated him for actor in a comedy for a movie
nobody has heard of.
Yeah, thank you. Rachel McAdams has gotten in a couple of places, but none of them consistently have gotten the support a movie like Spotlight should be getting. So, and then Tom Hardy hasn't done very well in for The Revenant. So to me, I think when you see that many people just kind of fall by the wayside, and you've got a guy that's well-liked, who's made everybody a lot of money in the room, who's got a great story, who kind of surprises everyone, yeah, I think he's probably got this pretty well locked up.
What do you think, Jacob?
Do you think the comeback narrative is really going to be enough? Because Sylvester Stallone hasn't just been a Razzie winner. He's been a perpetual Razzie winner. I mean, I just don't know if a comeback narrative, this might be one of those rare circumstances where you give a great performance. It might not be enough. He's already signed, I think I heard, for Expendables 4, Rambo, The Last Blood. Like, you know, not that there will be a Norbit early next year, probably, hopefully, literally, but, like, I just don't know if it'll be enough to overcome the disdain, the industry reluctance that just might be there to even nominate Sylvester Stallone again. I think he's going to get nominated, personally. I'll be surprised if he doesn't, but as for winning, how many people are there that will want to say Academy Award winner Sylvester Stallone on Expendables 4? You know?
Let me ask you.
Go ahead, Amanda. No, you go ahead.
If Matt Damon didn't win writing for Good Will Hunting, would you think he'd be more of a front runner since he doesn't have an Oscar for The Martian?
Oh, yeah! That's
what I think. I think that's why Sylvester Stallone has kind of an IOU. He didn't win for writing, and now he's back with maybe what I just was blown away by his performance in this movie, to the point where I think that he's probably got it. Anyone who's seen it will tell you what a heartfelt performance he gives. Oh, yeah.
That I think there's two factors that Stallone has in his favor. Number one is the performance. It is a performance. It's really heartbreaking. I mean, there's so much vulnerability that he has in that movie. so much heart, so much soul. Really, it really feels like the first Rocky movie. It feels like that's the Sylvester Stallone that we remember. But the other thing that Stallone has in his favor, I think, is that there's no one solid alternative.
That's what I'm thinking.
There's Mark Rylance, who I am a huge fan of because I'm a huge theater guy. Mark Rylance is a god among actors. There is nothing that man cannot do. The problem is, in Bridge of Spies, his character is so subdued, it's so subliminal, and it's not the type of performance that I think, it's not the type of performance that typically jumps out and wins Oscars. Tom Hardy, as much as I love Tom Hardy, he hasn't, his performance in The Revenant is really amazing, but he hasn't gotten in at several places. So, I mean, who else is gonna get it other than Stallone? Who has that momentum?
I can name one, Michael Shannon. He got 99 Homes. He's been campaigning passionately. We have been underestimating this guy the entire awards season. I mean, he's going to be the movie's only nomination. Let me just say that. He will be 99 Homes' only nomination. I have not seen 99 Homes even, but it's exactly the winking devil kind of performance that supporting actor loves, that category, and Idris Elba wasn't what I thought he would be in Beast of No Nation. He was still great. He's always great, but, and I just think Michael Shannon's been campaigning so hard, maybe they'll give it to him just in a type of character role, like they gave Lee Marvin an Oscar decades ago, or James Coburn. It seems like it's the kind of role they like to give to a real character actor. So, if anyone can be
the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Lifetime Achievement Award for Stallone, they can give him an honorary Oscar in a decade or so. They did it for Sidney Lumet. Sidney Lumet, I mean, he didn't win a competitive award ever, neither did Hitchcock.
But you really think Michael Shannon is going to win? We haven't seen a winner not line up in the top 10 of, or whatever amount of nominees there's been since there's been a top 10.
Christopher Plummer, he was beginner's only nomination.
Oh, yeah, Christopher Plummer. We've seen very few examples
very few, admittedly, but it could happen, and just the type of role Michael Shannon plays, not even just how big or small the movie is, but the type of role is what makes me think, could it happen? And it got critically acclaimed, and Creed, I'm just thinking that I'm probably going to be wrong, and Sylvester Stallone will wind up winning the Oscar for Creed, and I'll be like, what was I talking about? But
I actually I've seen 99 Homes, and quite frankly, I don't get it. I don't get what all the hype over Shannon is. I really don't. No.
Oh.
He plays like it's a very one-note kind of smirky performance, and it wasn't even fascinating to watch. Andrew Garfield is the really good performance in that movie.
Kind of like Abraham Lincoln be better in Beast of No Nation.
Who knows? I think Stallone's out in front, and
Stallone's gonna win this then.
I think keep your eye out for who wins the Globe, who wins the SAG, if someone can sort of really break out as get really take hold of the race. And with Stallone not being nominated at the SAG, I don't think it matters too much, but it could give someone an opportunity to break out into the race. And
right now, my thought is that Stallone wins the Globe. Mark Rylance will probably win the SAG because he's an actor's actor sort of person. And one of those two will win the Oscar. I think it'll be Stallone. Stallone's got the better story.
Mark Rylance needs to look at some of his acceptance speeches from the Tony Awards and come up with a way of acting like he really cares about this, because reading a poem is not going to help him win an Oscar.
I love it. But then again, it probably works better. Although it's funny, I was expecting, Rylance won his third Tony this past year, and it was the first time that he had won a Tony and actually gave an actual acceptance speech and not done a poem.
But
now we're getting into the weeds and nobody cares. So
are you saying that
jump up and down? But I think if he acts like this doesn't matter at all, and Stallone gives an amazing acceptance speech at the Globes,
Yeah.
Then, yeah. I mean, if Elba wins, we know he's very personable, he can be very charming, then I think we might have a race. But again, we're talking about a movie that has a $0 box office.
Mhm.
Then again, Netflix has more money to burn than anyone else in this.
Exactly. I want to say two things. One, Paul Dano in Love and Mercy. Real life person, mental illness. He's been in every role, and even if he doesn't win, he's going to get nominated. Can we at least agree Paul Dano will get nominated for Love and
Absolutely.
Mercy? Okay.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
Paul Dano's biggest problem is John Cusack, unfortunately.
John Cusack's being campaigned in lead, though, I thought.
I know, but I'm saying if you're watching that movie, to me, John Cusack was very distracting. And I think that if they just edited out his parts and submitted Paul Dano's part, yeah, he would definitely be more in this race.
Yeah,
But the
John
problem
Cusack was kind of
is,
weird.
I just didn't think that John Cusack was very convincing.
He was
I
kind of
think
weird.
that's why Elizabeth Banks hasn't been making any top 5 lists, even though she's really good.
She was really good.
John
She's
Cusack
one
is kind of her problem.
Yeah, she's won a Critics Award, and I think what Paul Dano's problem is, are they campaigning Dano and supporting? Because he's won a couple of lead awards from critics, but so I think category placement's going to be a problem. Very few people saw Love and Mercy. It kind of came and went. I think it only made like $5 or $6 million at the box office.
More than 99 Homes did.
Yeah.
But I also want to say, you mentioned SAG earlier and Mark Rylance, Tony. Does that mean you think he's going to get double wins? Because Wolf Hall, besides Idris Elba, he's all by himself in male actor at SAG in a TV movie miniseries. You got Bill Murray playing Bill Murray, Ray Liotta at Name Check, Texas Rising. You've got Ben Kingsley playing an Egyptian dude again, not Exodus, from Ridley Scott. But do you think he's going to win double at SAG, Mark Rylance?
What's interesting is that, I don't know if anybody else noticed that, is that Idris Elba and Mark Rylance are competing against each other twice.
Exactly.
So I think Elba would be more likely to win in the TV one for its process of elimination. That category is so underwhelming.
I don't think it's as bad as female actress. They got Grace Monaco in there.
So we've got let's switch gears to we've got two more topics we'll talk about. One of which is Spotlight. It is in the front of this race. However, it hasn't really centered around a lot of our discussions. It's about acting races and directing races and things like that. What is this a weaker front runner, Tony? Or is it going to be hard to overtake?
Can I say this first? I think
yes, Jacob.
I think it's not going to win ensemble at SAG. I think The Big Short, Christian Bale getting nominated over Keaton and Ruffalo. Christian Bale, he was just so off the radar. Like, where did that come from? And it came out in December, yeah. Instead of a Revenant, either one of those two could be the real Star Wars of this awards season. And The Revenant, I've been hearing it looks great, but the emotions aren't that great. Like, The Big Short has everything. It has emotions. Steve Carell talking about his brother, he could get nominated. I'm thinking that Max, The Big Short, this is the big thing with The Big Short that I think could hurt its chances is the amount of nominations it will get. Spotlight, it's not going to get, it's definitely going to get less than The Big Short. I'm going to say that confidently. You hear me? Spotlight will get less than The Big Short in terms of nominations. It's the ensemble-driven movie, real subject, just what I think.
Boy, so are you saying Jacob, that you think The Big Short has a shot of winning Best Picture?
Yes, I think The Big Short or Mad Max Fury Road will win Best Picture. I've said this on Awards Daily last night, Sasha Stone's website, under one of the comments I posted. One of those two movies will win Best Picture, The Big Short or Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
The Spotlight's not winning, I don't think. It doesn't have a passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think, Amanda?
I don't think Mad Max is going to win, and I like The Big Short, but again, I think Christian Bale's been better. I liked him, but he's kind of off on his own. It's just, I don't know if it's enough to for me personally to vote for him when I've seen better throughout the year. And I think Spotlight is not a crafts film, and we've seen a lot of problems with it getting in to the acting races, which should be its biggest supporter. I was afraid at the beginning of the year that it was going to run the Best Supporting Actor category, and we were going to see 2 or 3 of them get in. Third one, because I hated it when Modern Family did it. I was really going to hate it if they did it at the Oscars.
Yeah.
But now, I think we'll be lucky if we get one of them in Supporting Actor. And again, there's not a lot of passion for that movie in general, but what else is there?
There's a Big Short.
No,
I know you don't have passion, but I'm saying I think the Oscar voters who want to feel smart and want to look smart and be relevant may go for The Big Short as the cool new movie.
Why not Spotlight? But why wouldn't they go for Spotlight if that's what they're going for?
Because the Spotlight is just the characters, and ultimately is with the characters are not as interesting as like Brad Pitt, the germophobic guy who's kind of like has his seeds, or Ryan Gosling, who's just so charismatic and smug as heck, and Steve Carell, who's not as transformative as Foxcatcher, yet he shows such a great emotional range of A Big Short. I thought Steve Carell did better in A Big Short than Christian Bale, and I wish Steve Carell had gotten in at SAG over Johnny Depp for Black Mass.
Yeah. Tony?
I think Spotlight is... I think Spotlight's the front runner. I think it'll stay the front runner until something comes along to dethrone it. I don't think that The Big Short will be the one to do it, and here's why. The Spotlight and The Big Short, for all intents and purposes, are very similar types of movies. They both take real-life events and dramatize them. So what Spotlight has the advantage of is that there's some real gravitas to that movie that The Big Short doesn't have. Talking about the Catholic Church and talking about something that really, when you go back to, because I remember when the whole story of the Catholic Church first broke in the Boston Globe, it was such big news. It was such a huge story, and there was some real emotion. The Big Short's problem is I think the subject matter of The Big Short is a little bit too esoteric for a more widespread Academy audience. Because, here you have, and now I'm going to look at the camera and I'm going to talk about subprime mortgages. Ooh, the gravitas of subprime mortgages.
But they make it cool. Selena Gomez is in it. Margot Robbie in a bathtub.
Yes, but you just made my point for me, because if there's one thing the Academy has never been accused of, is being cool.
Okay, that is true.
This is, Spotlight is a journalism movie that we haven't seen since All the President's Men. Now,
a group of people trying to accomplish something.
Actually,
yeah.
They did do
something wrong, kind of.
They did do something cool a few years ago, I remember. They gave the Argo Best Picture when I was predicting Lincoln to win Picture and Director for Spielberg. And that one kind of surprised me, because I thought, people are underestimating Lincoln. Of course they'll beat Argo, because Argo didn't get directing. And of course I was wrong. I didn't list the guilds at all, or precursors, and that blew up my face.
But Argo had a narrative about Ben Affleck being overlooked. That's really what drove
That was the
Argo.
best thing that ever happened to that movie.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The best thing that ever happened to Argo.
Sorry to be the one to say it, Ben, but that probably was the best thing that happened.
People were so mad.
But I think Spotlight will stay the front runner, provided that it gets it's got to get a directing nomination, which I'm pretty certain that it would. Tom McCarthy will get in for directing. It's going to happen. It will get a screenplay nomination. I think if any of the actors are most likely to get nominated, and I completely agree with what Jacob said about Rachel McAdams, but I think she's most likely to get a nomination, followed by Mark Ruffalo. I think there could be a weird sort of thing, because we've seen these kind of things happen before, where there's one person that gets put out front to be in an acting category, and then all of a sudden somebody else just kind of slips in. We saw, Diane Weiss get nominated for Bullets Over Broadway, and she won everything. But then all of a sudden on Oscar night, Jennifer Tilly's in there. So could Liev Schreiber or Stanley Tucci, who I think gives the best performance in Spotlight.
He was so charismatic in Spotlight. Yeah, Stanley Tucci was pretty good. That's a good point.
So I think Spotlight will stay the front runner unless something big comes out of nowhere to dethrone it.
And it's been a big. I was just going to say it's been a big benefit to Spotlight that some of the other key contenders have not been able to keep their momentum, or they've dropped like a Joy, which you would have thought would be the key contender, but it's just the reviews have not been strong enough. It's dropped out of the top 10 on Gold Derby. It really, looking down at the list that I am now, I don't see the film that beats Spotlight at the moment. Now, if they get upset for Best Ensemble or something else, or if a film picks up momentum, the Globes. Yeah, something else can start running. If the right film can run away with the Globes and things like that.
Yeah, and I don't think The Martian is whatever happens at the Globes, I'm still scratching my head about how The Martian's a comedy, but whatever.
I'm okay with it. I'm one of a few people that is.
I'm just like, okay. But then again, Transparent's not a comedy.
Well, I don't think a lot of people would find the stock market collapse of 2008 to be a comedy, but The
Martian was just so lighthearted and kind of silly at times. I'm okay with it being a comedy. It's not as serious as it wanted to be, and sometimes it had dramatic moments, but I still feel it can be arguably classified as a comedy, in my opinion, my minority opinion.
Well, and I think if Ridley Scott, and Matt, you tell me if you think I'm insane here, if Ridley Scott wins director at the Globes, Matt Damon really could win comedy actor at the Globes. Martian could win Best Picture Comedy at the Globes. Mm-hmm. Could that reignite the momentum for The Martian and then give us all of a sudden a viable alternative to Spotlight?
Possibly. I think that is I think it'll get it some more momentum. I don't know how long that would last. That's I guess my question.
I'm sorry.
That was my question.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, films like The Martian and Mad Max are kind of being lumped together with Star Wars, and that might just be kind of the problem, that there's not just one of them this year. Like, there was one Gravity, there was one Life of Pi, and this year there's kind of all three of these films that are going to be fighting for the technical race and the technical kind of votes that...
I disagree completely. I feel like Mad Max has won so many precursors, it automatically puts it at a higher level than Star Wars. The Pale Awakening is true, I'm sorry. But, I'm saying, it's Mad Max, it's got better critical acclaim, it's not a product, first of all. It's a movie, a real movie, and it's going to get more nominations. It could get nominated it's going to get a directing nomination. I think we're all in agreement that George Miller, whether or not we agree he will win, is going to get nominated for directing.
Oh, yeah. That's without a doubt.
He's a lock for directing nomination. And J.J. Abrams, if anyone's going to get nominated, it's Spielberg, his mentor. Didn't do the best job. But, Bridge of Spies, you remember hearing an Oscar spy, Matt, a few months ago, and Gold Derby was saying how Bridge of Spies was an Academy favorite? That could get in over Spotlight, because right now, I haven't mentioned this, but I have Tom McCarthy in 5th place, I think, for Spotlight in terms of directing. I think he's more likely to be the Ben Affleck of this year, not Ridley Scott. Because it's such a subtly directed film, and they've never liked journalism. All the President's Men won so many critics' Best Picture awards, and then Rocky came ahead. So they never liked journalism.
What's funny is that if McCarthy doesn't get nominated for director, that could actually benefit Spotlight in Best Picture, because we've seen time and time again, level as say the Affleck snub, but I mean, Driving Miss Daisy, no director nod, lighthearted picture, wins Best Picture, and doesn't get a director nomination. So I think there's so many variables, but to what Amanda was talking about, you've got Mad Max, you've got Martian, and Star Wars. For all intents and purposes, I mean, first of all, what an embarrassment of riches that we have 3 sci-fi movies even in the conversation. When was the last time that happened? And where The Martian could benefit is because Mad Max, my favorite movie of the year, because Mad Max can be so hard for people to grasp onto, for some people, and I understand that. Could The Martian be the safer alternative, which would then help Ridley Scott?
Yes.
It didn't get a SAG Ensemble nomination. Even I was predicting The Martian for SAG.
I wasn't predicting The Martian for a SAG
I didn't
ensemble.
think The Martian had a great ensemble. I thought it would get in because of name recognition. SAG checked Kristen Wiig or Jessica Chastain, all these names of people they like. But Beasts of No Nation got in there. So coming from that argument, I'd say even Beasts of No Nation has a better chance of a Martian of Best Picture. I mean, here's what the thing is with Martian is. You disagree with that?
I disagree with that, but continue.
The Martian, do you think it's possible it could be a Foxcatcher this year where it gets in directing but not picture? Because what if the SAG Tech nominees and the sound branches rank it #1 for theirs but not Best Picture overall?
Bennett Miller didn't.
Am I just not seeing why people love this movie? Because I liked it, but I didn't love it, and I just have a hard time grasping it as a Best Picture on any level.
It touched a chord. It touched it.
Really?
I don't think anybody was expecting The Martian to be as big as it was. I mean, this is a movie that made $350 million and got so much critical acclaim that now we're talking about Ridley Scott being the frontrunner for director. It'll get a lot of tech nominations, and that'll really push it up.
Here's the thing about... Here's, I guess, the struggle for The Martian within these sci-fi discussions is I do feel like just in my head it's overshadowed by the other two. The Mad Max is more critically acclaimed, and Star Wars is more commercially successful. I just feel like that's sort of the thing in my head is sort of like, are they really going to give it to The Martian out of those three? That seems like the least buzzed of the three. It's going to seem like a sort of Star Wars or Mad Max, whichever camp you're in, sort of light. And I'm not sure if it's a compromise choice either. I don't think it's let's compromise on The Martian.
Even as much as I hated Force Awakens, I admit there's way more buzz for Star Wars right now than there has ever been for The Martian, even when it got first released. And that's coming from someone who's hated The Martian hated Star Wars so much. There's more buzz for Star Wars than The Martian.
You know what? If Spotlight wins everything it's expected to along the way, and if there isn't an alternate that emerges in the precursors, we could get to the point where, if nominated, Star Wars is the only thing that can stop it. I think, if it's just that none of those other films hit and they're failing, it might not even be nominated Star Wars, but if it is. If there's no precursors to go on, Star Wars will be the film with the argument of, well, it didn't get nominated for a lot of those awards anyway.
But even Amanda agrees that Harrison Ford isn't getting an acting because it's too overcrowded for supporting actor, and I don't. Do you think, Matt, that Force Awakens can seriously get in screenplay when Empire couldn't get in?
I've seen movies win without screenplay. Enough.
In that scenario, Spotlight is a strong frontrunner.
Spotlight was original.
I think Spotlight's hard to beat. I think Spotlight's hard to beat in that scenario where it wins everything along the way, or all it wins at the Globes, it wins at the SAG, it might win the DGA, maybe not that, but everything but the DGA. I think then Spotlight becomes a strong front runner, and there isn't that alternate. So you go, well, they might give it to Star Wars because it's so huge.
Didn't Argo even win the DGA? The DGA predicts Best Picture so often. Even when Roman Polanski won for the Oscar for directing The Pianist, Chicago still won the DGA for Rob Marshall. So
keep your eye on the DGA and what wins that. That could be your alternate to Spotlight. I just think if it's The Martian, it could be, or if it's Ridley Scott that wins the DGA, it could be just that. Well, that's Ridley Scott's thing.
It's just weird we're not talking anything about the December movies, because that used to be the time when they would come out and maybe we're headed for a surprise. Maybe we are underestimating The Revenant.
Yeah.
That is this year's Star Wars, probably. Maybe.
That is second. That is second on Gold Derby odds for Best Picture. The Revenant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the film that has the right cross between acting and the technical categories that it could pull this off, because
Leo's winning.
not getting one actor in isn't a big deal. Tom Hardy not getting nominated, maybe not a big deal, especially when Leonardo DiCaprio is now the heavy favorite to win. When you're expected to almost run a category at the Oscars or at the Golden Globes and you can't get anybody in, that starts to seem a little bit more problematic to me.
Something I remembered one thing I wanted to talk about was the possibility that Revenant wins picture and director, but not Leo, as last year Birdman won picture and director and screenplay, but not Michael Keaton. Because Bryan Cranston has been getting nominated everywhere for Trumbo. He, like Leo, plays a real-life person. It's a kind of biopic that isn't as violent for Oscar voters. And if they didn't nominate Leo for Django Unchained or Catch Me If You Can or So Many Times or Shutter Island, so... Am I overthinking that? Is it just going to be Leo?
You're overthinking
You're overthinking it.
Okay, it'll be Leo. It'll be Leo.
Well, I think
I love
Leo,
Trumbo, and I haven't seen Revenant yet, so who knows?
I think Leo could potentially lose. I think it's a bit too early to say he's definitely won, but I don't envision a scenario where Leo loses, yet there's so much support for The Revenant that it can win picture and director.
Yeah, Leo is not Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
This is his first time at the dance.
Yeah. It's essentially like...
That's a good point. That's a good point. That was Michael Keaton's first nomination.
Yeah.
But, so, yeah. I didn't see Birdman coming in for Best Sound Mixing and Sound Editing last year. I was, like, so confused by that, because I usually like war movies, so... And I know there's a lot, so maybe The Revenant, if it gets in sound mixing, sound editing, it's going to win cinematography over Fury Road. I've kind of resigned myself to that fact.
Yeah.
Well, Leo, and I think The Revenant is one we really need to watch very closely to see what happens, because it is, like I said, the narrative of The Revenant is as much a big part of it as the movie itself, and the difficulty in making it. The fact that it's shot completely using natural light. We know that, Lubeski's going to win number 3. That's as close of a lock as I can think.
Exactly.
I think The Revenant is a really strong contender because Leo is in the lead to win. It is a directorial, achievement, and I think that if Inarritu hadn't won last year, we might be talking more about him this year. I think the only reason we're not talking about Inarritu as much this year is because he won last year.
Yeah, and that I think there's been a good brainstorm group discussion guide. I think we've bounced around a lot of things and we've sort of come back to actually The Revenant's probably got a good chance of being that one.
Spotlight is going to be just one. If Spotlight's not the front runner and something's about to overtake it, it's not just going to be a technical heavy movie. It's got to be something like The Revenant that's like the perfect mix of, oh my God, this is so technically hard to do, and then look at Leonardo DiCaprio giving this amazing performance. And wouldn't it be nice if Leonardo DiCaprio won his Oscar and the picture won, kind of a thing?
Exactly.
Like Scorsese with The Departed.
Scorsese won and then The Departed won.
But even Jack Nicholson didn't get nominated for The Departed. That was not.
He already has 3. There was no rush to nominate him again.
Problems with which actor should be in which category, and I'm supporting and I'm leading this, and that there had so much category confusion in that movie with those actors.
I thought that was only with Leo.
That Mark Wahlberg was the only one nominated because he was the only one going, I am supporting.
Yeah.
I thought that also, but I guess was wrong.
The Departed. That year, Warner's was expecting Flags of Our Fathers to be their big Oscar contender. They were completely unprepared for a
Flags of Our Fathers? Seriously?
That was before Oscar season. That was the one that everyone thought Spielberg and Eastwood. That's going to be Warner's big film. They were all geared up for that, and then when that sort of
Letters from Kojima,
and it was Letters from Kojima, which was an amazing. I would have voted for Letters. I think that was the best film of the year. But anyway. But regardless, we also have TV forums at Gold Derby. We've sort of run out of time, but let's just deep dive. Let's just jump into, just for about a 5-minute discussion, on Mr. Robot or Outlander. Which film is going to do better at the Globes? We know they like rewarding new stuff. What do we think, Amanda? Which of those two shows are the Globes going to embrace?
Well, I know everyone thinks because I'm a girl, I'm going to pick Outlander, but I'm going to shock you, and I'm going to go with Mr. Robot. Because Outlander was eligible last year and didn't get anything, and it was still seemed very buzzy at the time. So I just really was surprised and loved Mr. Robot. It was a great summer kind of series, and it's really nice to see Raimi doing so well, and that SAG nomination was a great kind of boost for his Emmy chances. But I don't like predicting sweeps at the Globes, but right now I've got it in all three categories, which is starting to make me nervous.
You know what Mr. Robot is? It's this year's Homeland. It's this year's The Affair. It's the hot, new, fresh show the Globes love to award. That's what Mr. Robot is. It's the hot. That's what Globes did. People were saying House of Cards would win last year. I had to be a fair winning, and sure enough, I came in like 8th or 9th out of over 1,000 people predicting the Golden Globe winners for TV.
Yeah. And Tony, what do you think?
You know, the Globes are so weird when it comes to TV because on one hand, they do like to get out in front and recognize the shows that the Emmys will never even nominate.
Yes!
But, and I have this really, and I agree that if it were a choice between Outlander and Mr. Robot, that Mr. Robot is a little bit more, has much more of an edge to it and is much more what the Globes would like to win. But the Globes also have a habit of being late to the party, like they were with Breaking Bad. And there is a possibility that Game of Thrones could all of a sudden, and I think it's a small possibility, but I think it's a possibility. If it's not Mr. Robot, I think it's going to be Game of Thrones.
Peter Dinklage couldn't get nominated. He won the Emmy. He won the Emmy. I mean, and you know, they've never liked Game of Thrones. They didn't nominate it for Best Series for anything for its second and third seasons. They only gave it a nomination for Best Series for its first and fourth seasons.
Yeah, I think Game of Thrones is eventually going to win, but this is not the year.
Exactly, just like the White Walkers.
They have 3 viable first-year shows that they could go for. I mean, I could make an argument that Empire is going to win before Game of Thrones.
I don't think so because I don't think Empire. I don't think the Globe voters would even get Empire.
But they love new shows, and that show is new. It's been hot.
It's soapy. It's everything they love.
You know, we're talking about an award show that gave Glee 2 Best Series in a row. Musical. But, you know, it was the new hot show. And you could say at a point Empire was the new hot show. So as much as I would like to see Game of Thrones win, and I think you're right, I think you're right, it's kind of getting to that embarrassing point. Without an acting nomination, I don't think this is the year.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out that Breaking Bad, you mentioned, Tony, that was one of the only times I think that they've ever been that late to a party. Whereas, like, they were the first to recognize The Sopranos. They were the first to recognize Homeland before the Emmys. They pointed out Transparent. Hey, this show exists on Amazon, Transparent. I mean, they're generally, the Emmys are the ones that are always late to the party, giving 24 one for its 5th season, whereas Globes, I think, gave it for, like, 2003, I think, and they gave The Shield one for its first season when the Emmys didn't nominate for a series, but still.
Yeah. To be fair, Season 5 of 24, a lot better than whatever season the Globes gave it for.
Oh, really?
It was my opinion, yeah.
Better?
Yeah.
I think Season 5 was their best season, yeah.
They're not always the best judgment of what's the best show.
No.
But
I know.
As far as who's got the buzz, who's got the heat, I mean, and let's not forget that this is the foreign press we're talking about, so we can't really forget Narcos, because it is half in Spanish. So that might work in its favor.
Yeah. That could be, Narcos could be the affair of this year.
True.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
My thought is that if I completely agree, the show that deserves to win is Mr. Robot. It's at 100%. I think it's the show that probably will win because it's got the act. But if it's a choice between two costume period dramas, I know that Outlander got the actress and the supporting actor nods, but in terms of what has more cachet, Game of Thrones has more cachet. So I'm going to be stubborn and be my Taurus self and say that if it's not Mr. Robot, it's going to be Game of Thrones. So, and then if I'm wrong, you can all mock me.
I hate to say it, but nobody seemed to like the second season of Empire so far. I'm just coming from a guy who does not watch Empire, by the way. I saw the first episode of a series. I didn't care for it because I'm not into soap operas that much. But the second season, Amanda, do you watch Empire? Do people like the second season?
I mean, it's got a dip in quality, but, you know, it is. I think their biggest mistake was, I can't remember what disease Terrence Howard's character had, that they decided at the last minute, oh, it's something else like that. I think they should have kept that going, but
So
I've said this before we started, that I think Empire's I think the Fox Network's big mistake was not following the same model that they did with Glee and starting Empire in the fall and then having it roll out. So by the time the Emmys came around, it had all this big momentum. Because imagine if we were just looking at the first 8 episodes of Empire, the first season, when that was just building each week, we would probably be talking about whether or not Terrence Howard and Taraji P. Henson and the series were going to win.
Exactly. Took words right out of my mouth.
But we're halfway through season 2, so that's kind of why it's probably in 3rd instead of in 1st or 2nd. And Mr. Robot is inventive. It's creative. Who thought the USA was going to get back to the party?
The Robot is thought-provoking. It's well-directed. It's entertaining. It's entertainment that's good for your brain. The best kind.
Yeah. Oh, well, on that, guys, I think we're going to wrap up our Slugfest.
Can I ask one more?
Yes, Jacob.
About the Hateful Eight. Because I'm only asking this because I'm seeing the Hateful Eight tomorrow, on Thursday, the 31st. I am so worried it's going to be the Interstellar of 2015, where it's good but flawed. And everyone's saying Hateful Eight isn't that great, so do we think it could in for a Producers Guild? Do you think it could in Producers Guild? Or anything? Or
I think its best chance. I think Hateful Eight's best chance is Jennifer Jason Leigh. I think that's their best shot for an award.
Inihio Morricone is the most overdue person this Oscar season. I'm going to say it right here. More than Ridley Scott, more than Inihio Morricone, the composer, the good, the bad, and the ugly. All of Sergio Leone's movies except his very first one, The Untouchables. He's won a Globe, I think a couple actually. The Mission he did from Roland Joffe. He's 87 years old, and he delivers this epic classic-style overture and everything. And it's supposed to be very ominous and eerie, kind of, or tension-filled. If that disappoints me, I'll be so mad, but he's the most overdue person in this race. This is a literal last chance award for him. Unlike Scott, who could win for still a later movie. He's still, even though he's 78, he still seems to be doing pretty healthy. I
agree. Morricone's deserving, but yes, I agree.
However I pronounce it. But do you think he could win, or is it The Revenant, or Carter Burwell has never gotten an Oscar nomination, so are we overestimating him for Carol?
One thing I think we know about scores is that they come out of left field, and everything you think could possibly win. I think that's a category where you just kind of flip a coin, and
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So the Hateful Eight, it'll get in just probably these 3, and we can name it. Supporting actress Jennifer Jason Leigh, score cinematography. Is that it? Is that the benchmark, or is it getting a screenplay too, or a writer's
I wouldn't
B2?
rule out Tarantino for a screenplay nod. Like, sometimes they go left
No,
field
I
there.
wouldn't either.
I will say Tarantino, he's a very gracious winner. If you look at his speech the last time he won, you don't really expect that out of him. But I think Django's biggest problem, other than the N-word, was the length. So someone needs to reel back the time, and that's the one thing that worries me a little bit about The Hateful Eight, is that 3-hour. And isn't there an intermission in this?
There is, I heard. There's actually an intermission in Hateful Eight.
Yeah, I think someone needs to get him to put the brakes on a little bit.
Not the only person in Hollywood that needs that advice. Yeah.
His editor, Sally Menke, died, and she did all of his movies until after Inglourious Bastards. She wasn't there for Django, so maybe we just need to bring back Sally Menke back from the dead. Kill Bill.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, well, we do need to wrap up now, guys. Okay. What a great Slugfest. It was so great chatting with you. But and everyone watching this, you can join the Gold Derby forums and continue these discussions and talking about all these stuff. Sure, a lot of you already signed up. If not, it's very easy to register. Join it, and these guys are all in there. Amanda, the surprise lover, in the forums.
Thank you.
And you won the National Board of Review, didn't you?
You did. And
Congratulations once again.
And that was the reason.
There you go. We've got Jacob, who is Pterodax in the forums. Yeah. And we've got Tony, who is Opera Junkie. I'm Matt Noble in the forums. It's easy to find me.
You're really stretched there, Matt.
Yeah. So there we go. Thank you for watching. Thanks, guys, for joining in, and hopefully more of these coming.